Good afternoon and welcome here to South Armagh, to Cullaville in particular. And behind me you will see the quilt that 15 ladies in the local area have been working on in the past few months. We're extremely proud of this, and each piece, you will know, is different. Each piece on the quilt tells its own story. It's been done by each participant because it means something very special to them. We've worked in conjunction with another group in Boris in County Carlow, and it was wonderful really to hear and see what they do with lace. We're looking forward to you seeing the film, and we will in the future hopefully visit Boris and be able to find out firsthand exactly how they do their lace. I'd like to thank you all for joining us this afternoon virtually. This isn't at all how we hoped that our quilt would be unveiled, but because of circumstances we really have had just to comply with regulations. This quilt and the one in Boris were both done during lockdown, and in a way it's commemorating this piece in history. We hope that we all could find something very profitable to do during this very unusual time. It's now my pleasure to introduce Common Threads, our film, and thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. I hope you really will enjoy the film as much as we have enjoyed making it. Thank you.
My early memories of Carrick Cross Lace was a neighbour of ours, Agnes Martin, was doing a piece for the Pope, and of course it was of great interest in the area. Now I don't actually remember what the piece was. I was very young, 8 or 9 at the time, or I don't even remember seeing it, but it was a great source of conversation. So then I did some at school, but not until my grandchildren arrived did I want to do something for them, and that's how I got back into it again.
Hello and welcome to South Armagh. My name is Rosie Bell and I am here in the townland of Clonallig in the McGeaney homestead, which is literally very close to the village of Cullaville. Cullaville is synonymous with lace making and is considered the early seat of Carrickmacross lace. The South Armagh Lace Collective is based in the village, and we're involved in this project and have created a wonderful memory quilt to celebrate and honour the women that went before us. This area was prolific in terms of Carrickmacross lace making, and our quilt is made in the Cullaville blues colours. We have 18 squares. Each square is made by local women or women who are directly linked to the area and to the long-standing lace tradition.
Well, I think the lace is a great pastime. You could sit down there and you don't feel where the time goes. You can leave it and go out and come back to it. I think it's a great thing.
I met Mary McMahon and she said come to the class and do a piece of lace. And I did my lace then, and then she said, well, maybe I'll do a veil. So then I started and did a veil for my daughter's communion. I've made a lot. It's a great pastime and I love doing it. I love getting started, and then I also love getting finished, getting the loops and getting the cutting out done. I just like it.
I always knew that lace was highly prized in this area and farther afield. And although my First Holy Communion veil was carried across lace, I never thought that I would ever learn how to make it. But after my mother died, I was going through her possessions and I found a pillowcase and it felt crinkly, and I opened it up and found the piece of carried across lace with the pattern still attached to it because she hadn't finished it, and I just didn't want to think that it would never be finished. So I decided to go to the classes, learn how to make it and finish it.
I'm Anne Hughes and I live in Cullaville, just directly across the road from the old lace school that's on the concession road in Cullaville. My interest in lace comes from my great aunt Agnes Martin and my own mother, who then taught me how to do the lace. So I can remember at the age of 8 and 9 visiting her in her little cottage, watching her doing the sewing, going over to Carmel Cross with her to lead the sewing into the nuns in the Lily Convent. So I suppose I would have learned it at maybe the age of 10 or 11. Then I got out of the way of doing it, and it's only in the last, I suppose, 2 years that I have really got back to it. So it's something that you probably don't forget how to do, but I needed a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of guidance, and I have started back to do a lace class. So within the last 2 years, year and a half, I have completed maybe 5 or 6 pieces. I've done a selection of Christmas baubles. I keep some of the pieces at home and I have given others away as presents. So I suppose I would have some at home.
My name is Rose Nichols. Before I married, I was Finnegan to my own name, as they say in Belfast. I'm living in Belfast now, but I was born and raised in lovely South Armagh, in the townland of Glasdrominati, which is about a quarter of a mile from the village of Cullaville. I come from a family with at least 3 generations of Carrick Cross lace makers before me, with grannies, my mother, aunts and cousins on both sides of my family known to have made lace.
Because my aunts had made Carrick Cross lace, my dad told me the story about his aunts, or grandaunts, I'm not sure, but they had made the Carrick Cross lace for Queen Victoria. I think it's the veil. I think they've made. I'm not quite sure about that, but sure, I should look more into it. It's the harp, and I was fascinated by it from the time I was a child, because I had, when I got this penny, it was my pocket money from my dad, and we got it every Friday, and so I was intrigued by the harp. When I seen the piece, I thought I'd make, so I think I've made 3 or 4 of them, and I've given them away, but that was the last piece I had, so I put it on.
The piece that I did for this project is a shield and a gate, and I thought it would be unusual in that I'd never seen a shield and a gate done in the lace before. And it's a very striking image of a woman. And this female figure represented the strength of the woman, the fertility of women. And many of them that remained are so rubbed away that it was obvious that as people passed them, they would rub them for good luck and for vitality and for life and energy. So I thought, considering the project was celebrating the skills and the crafts of women, that a shield and a gate might be an appropriate motif for one of the blocks. So I did the Sheila and the gig.
Well, I actually made two pieces. The first piece is quite a modern design. It's a lighthouse. And the idea of it came to me fairly late on in the project. It's inspired and made in the memory of John Hume, and actually inspired by a conversation I had with one of the ladies from Boris, who was talking about the fact that had it not been for John Hume and his legacy, we probably wouldn't be doing a project like this. So for me, John Hume was a beacon of light through some of the darkest days of the Troubles. And so I thought it was a fitting tribute to him.
The piece I chose was a replica of the old lay school, which still stands just outside Cullaville, and I thought it would be nice to do that. That was why I chose it.
For my piece for the wall hanging, I have taken as my inspiration a photograph of my great Aunt Bessie, who it was sewing lace, sitting by her fireside in her wee cottage in the townland of Monagilla. This photograph was taken by the Northern Ireland Tourist Board in, I think it was 1970, the year before Bessie died, and is now in the National Museum's Northern Ireland collection.
So I actually have a selection of old lace patterns that I would have had from Agnes Martin. I decided to pick out one small one with the little basket of flowers. I like flowers, and she would have always sewn floral pieces in her work, so I chose that one particular piece for this project. I did a border around it of my own design, and I filled it with the different filling stitches sort of to make it unique to me. So.
The piece I chose to do for the quilt, the first piece I chose to do for the quilt, was a swan, and I really felt I wanted to honour my mother's memory by doing the swan, because she had done the two swans on her piece, which was the only piece of Carrick Cross lace she ever did. That was the piece that I had found unfinished, and I remember that my mother would have done the swan in the first place because she grew up in a farm in County Monaghan, which one of the fields ran down onto the River Fane, and she would have seen the swans there. So I knew that that would be very uppermost in her mind when she chose to do the swans, and I wanted to honour that memory by doing a swan.
I was more than honoured to be asked to contribute a piece to this project, because I always feel you're all self-critical about what you've done, but I thought it was a lovely idea, with the cross-border element of it, and working with the Boris Lace people, and the fact that we were celebrating the crafts of this area. My grandmother, my mother's mother, who lived in Criffkieran, was a lace maker, and it was only in recent years I discovered that. And Catherine Cassidy, her name was, and they lived with small farms, she had 9 children, and I would say the lace making was a great help to whatever income was coming into that house. Later in the mid-80s, I discovered a package of patterns that belonged to Mary Morris, and she lived up the Criffkieran Road, and Mary was a connection of ours, a cousin of my mother's, I believe, and an uncle gave me all of those patterns, which I have to this day, and they should be archived really, and when I look at them and look at the detail on them and the work that went into them, I can just visualise Mary Morris and my grandmother sitting in a very plain house, a little cottage beside an open fire, trying to make the lace. And that sparks me on as well, because I think these people, real artists across people of their time, have really been ignored and forgotten. And they should be an inspiration to young people coming forward.
That's something that drives me and drives the South Armagh Lace Collective. We want this to be something that continues well on into the future. We're talking about a 200-year-old tradition that has been in our care for 2 centuries, that we need to ensure that it's future-proofed for our future generations. We need to ensure, and we have the fact that Carrickmacross lace was placed on the National Inventory of Intangible Cultural Heritage is really important. That happened last year in June, and I want this to be passed on. My daughter's currently making lace and learning to make lace. I want it to be passed on to the young people, because I think I've said it a lot of times, but to me there's a huge amount of privilege and honour to knowing that you come from a line of lace makers, know that it's a huge part of your family story. So for me, I really hope that it continues as the passing on of the skills, and by us doing that. But my hope is that people will learn more about the story of lace making in South Armagh, because that has been one of the best kept secrets over the last how many years.
Well, I think all us ladies together will not let it die. I think because people would have interest if they put up a wee expedition, whatever it is, it would encourage a lot of people to join who likes needlework, who haven't the time to do it, and maybe now at this time they would be interested in doing something different.
It was just fantastic to be able to communicate with those people in Boris, and to feel that even though we were miles and miles apart, that we were at one with people doing a craft in their area, and to admire theirs, maybe to learn from theirs too, but to show ours off.
I think it's very important, and it's going to give the lacework a good show. The Carrickmacross lace, everywhere it goes, they'll be out looking at it. And I think it's a great thing. It's a credit to the one that started it. I think it's just beautiful. I think it was a credit to the ones that started it, and then to all the ones that did the pieces for it. It's just beautiful.
Yes, it's the quilt has turned out to be a magnificent piece of work with some beautiful traditional patterns and some contemporary patterns, and it's just lovely to see the mix and to know that the craft is developing in that way, that we're not stuck in the past with the patterns, and you know, hopefully that means that the younger people then will be interested in developing the lace themselves and keeping the tradition going.
Today is just a fantastic day to be able to come and see the unveiling of the quilt. We did put a lot of work into it, but we really do feel very pleased with the outcome, and the sun's shining here, which has added to the excitement of us all today coming here to do this.
I was pleased. I'm really pleased and excited that the quilt is finished, and thanks to the ladies in Donegal, the Fennel Shed in Donegal, for putting the quilt together, and for Nicola for quilting it. And I'm delighted to have to sew on we've sewn on all the pieces on it, and I'm really pleased with it.
We're absolutely thrilled with our quilt, and we have a great reverence for the lace here in this area, and I think the quilt displays some of the beauty of Carrick and Cross lace and the intricacy of the technique that goes along with making it. Yes, we're absolutely thrilled, and we're really hopeful that this quilt will be held in the community for many years to come.